Angela Morales was a single mother of two living in the small town of Pinebrook. Angela Morales was a single mother of two living in the small town of Pinebrook. It was a quiet place where everyone knew each other, and nothing much ever happened. Angela worked as a nurse at the local hospital, often taking night shifts to make ends meet. Her children, Kevin and Lisa, were used to their mother's erratic hours but were always comforted by the fact that Pinebrook was a safe place. It was late October when Angela went missing. She had finished her shift at 11 p.m., the same as always, and had texted Kevin to let him know she was on her way home. But she never arrived. Her car was found abandoned on Pinebrook Road, the engine still warm. Her purse and phone were inside, but there was no sign of Angela. The police launched an immediate search. Pinebrook Road was a known shortcut between the hospital and Angela's house, a narrow, poorly lit path flanked by dense woods. Officers scoured the area, but as the days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. There was no evidence of foul play, no clues to follow. Angela had simply vanished. Kevin, 16, took it the hardest. He refused to believe his mother would just leave them. He became obsessed with finding her, spending hours on the internet researching similar cases and theories. Lisa, only 12, tried to stay strong, but the fear and uncertainty wore her down. The townspeople were supportive at first, but as time passed, their interest waned. Life went on, and Angela's disappearance became another unsolved mystery. But Kevin wouldn't let it go. He started retracing Angela's steps, talking to anyone who might have seen her that night. His persistence paid off when he found an elderly man who lived near Pinebrook Road. Mr. Thompson was known for his reclusive nature, but he told Kevin something interesting. On the night Angela disappeared, he had seen a dark SUV parked on the side of the road, not far from where Angela's car was found. He didn't think much of it at the time, but now, it seemed significant. Kevin took this information to the police, but they dismissed it as irrelevant. Frustrated, he decided to investigate on his own. He started spending more time on Pinebrook Road, hoping to find something the police had missed. It was dangerous, but he didn't care. He had to find his mother. One night, while he was out there, Kevin heard a noise. It was faint, barely audible over the rustling leaves, but it was enough to make him stop. He followed the sound, his heart pounding in his chest. It led him to an old, abandoned cabin, hidden deep in the woods. The door was ajar, and inside, he found signs of recent activity. There were empty food containers, a sleeping bag, and a notebook. The notebook contained detailed notes about Angela's movements, as well as photographs of her and her children. Kevin's blood ran cold. Someone had been watching them. Kevin ran back to town and showed the evidence to the police. This time, they took him seriously. They launched a thorough search of the area and eventually found more clues that led them to a suspect, a former patient of Angela's who had become obsessed with her. He had a history of stalking and had recently been released from a psychiatric facility. The police arrested the man and questioned him for hours. Under pressure, he finally confessed. He had kidnapped Angela, hoping to force her into a twisted version of domestic life. But Angela had fought back, and in the struggle, she was injured. He panicked and left her tied up in the cabin, intending to return later, but when he saw the police searching the area, he fled. Angela was found in the cabin, weak but alive. She had been there for days, with only her will to survive keeping her going. The town of Pinebrook was shaken by the revelation that something so horrifying could happen in their peaceful community. Angela's children were reunited with their mother, but the scars of that night would take time to heal. Pinebrook Road was no longer just a shortcut. It was a reminder of the darkness that could lurk in the most unexpected places. The townspeople became more vigilant, and the memory of Angela's disappearance lingered, a stark reminder of the fragility of safety and the resilience of the human spirit. Angela Morales' story is a testament to the strength of a mother's love and the determination of a family to stay together. It's a story that reminds us that sometimes, the real horror lies not in the supernatural, but in the depths of human obsession and the courage it takes to overcome it. Everyone thinks they're safe in their own home. That's what I thought too, until I discovered someone had been watching me for months. I live in a suburban neighborhood, the kind with tree-lined streets and neatly manicured lawns. It's the sort of place where everyone waves hello and the biggest scandal is someone's dog digging up a flower bed. Or at least, that's what I used to think. My name is Rachel. I work from home as a freelance graphic designer, so I spend a lot of time in my house. It started about 6 months ago. I began to notice small things out of place. A window slightly open that I was sure I had closed, a faint smell of cigarette smoke in my kitchen even though I don't smoke. I brushed it off as my imagination, stress from work, or simple absent-mindedness. Then, I found the first note. It was a plain piece of paper slipped under my front door. It read, "I like watching you work." No signature, no indication of who had left it. My heart pounded as I read it. I convinced myself it was a prank, probably some kids from the neighborhood. But the notes kept coming. Each one more unsettling than the last. "You look peaceful when you sleep. Blue is your color. Nice dinner last night." Whoever was doing this knew intimate details about my life. They were watching me, and they were close. I went to the police, but without any concrete evidence, there wasn't much they could do. They advised me to install security cameras, so I did. I set them up around the house, hoping to catch the stalker in the act. For a while, things were quiet. I thought maybe whoever it was had gotten scared off. Then, one night, I was reviewing the footage from the cameras. That's when I saw him. A figure standing in my backyard, just out of the light, watching my house. He was tall, wearing a hoodie that obscured his face. He stood there for hours, barely moving. I called the police again, but by the time they arrived, he was gone. I started to feel like a prisoner in my own home. I kept the curtains closed, the doors locked, and I barely slept. The notes continued, now mentioning things like the books I was reading or the shows I was watching. The realization that he could see inside my house was terrifying. One day, I came home from a rare trip out to find a note taped to my bathroom mirror. I was inside. That was the final straw. I couldn't stay there any longer. I packed a bag and went to stay with a friend. My friend, Laura, was sympathetic but practical. She urged me to go to the police again, this time with all the evidence I had collected. Together, we went to the station, and this time, they took me seriously. They assigned a detective to my case and promised to keep a closer watch on my neighborhood. A few days later, I got a call from the detective. They had found him. His name was Greg, a delivery man who had worked in my neighborhood. He had a history of stalking and had been watching me for months, using his job as a cover to get close. They found dozens of photos of me in his apartment, along with detailed notes about my daily routines. Greg was arrested and charged with stalking and breaking and entering. I moved to a new place, far away from my old neighborhood. It took time, but I eventually started to feel safe again. But the experience changed me. I became more cautious, more aware of my surroundings. We often take our privacy for granted, believing that our homes are our sanctuaries. But the truth is, we can never be too careful. My story is a reminder that real horror doesn't always come from ghosts or monsters. Sometimes, it's the person watching from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to invade your life.